Welcome, people of the internet. My name is Nate Newman, and this is another episode of In Practice, the show where we talk to people with a high level of expertise in their respective skills and how they think about what they do in and what they've learned from practicing. For the show today, we have a guest who is a dear, dear friend of mine. On a Sunday a few years ago, back when I lived in Austin, I had nothing to do, so I got on either Facebook or Meetup, and I was just looking through events that I could go to, and I saw yoga and mimosas. Naturally, I saw that. I was like, sweet, good time, I'm going. So I got there. Turns out that it was the second ever Yoga and Mimosas event by my friend Lindsey Conroy. Since then, though, her company, AdZENtures Yoga, has grown into something much less modest. They run yoga retreats all over the world, and they have some really fabulous locations in the US and overseas. And they have some pretty imaginative offerings like wedding day yoga, which a lot of people, from what I hear, would like to calm down on the day of their wedding. Makes sense. As well as continuing to add more events in the Austin, Texas area. This summer, I actually went to Bovec in Slovenia for their retreat in the Alps, and I had just a perfect trip. Just an absolutely fantastic time. Lindsey has such an amazing story, and it was so fun to sit down and talk with her about her practice. I'm honored to have her as a guest today. So without waiting any longer, I'd like to welcome to the show, Lindsey Conroy. I apparently just have to nag the system to do it.
My thing says that it's Skype recording as well, so I think it's doubly going.
Okay, awesome. All right, cool. I guess we can just get into it. And okay, how long are you going to be in Austin? Because every time I felt like I talked to you, you said that like you were in Slovenia for longer and longer.
Yeah, so this year I'm going to be here until probably mid-April. So I have about 3 months left before retreat season starts. So trying to get everything going and kind of grease the wheels for this yoga machine here in Austin. We're up to 12 yoga instructors who are going to be teaching throughout the year here. So it's really kind of fun because we're going to be doing a lot of really cool events every month with some nature conservancies in Austin. And then we just got an office in WeWork. So we'll have classes there for all of these other entrepreneurial minds who just need a little bit of breath work and movement in the middle of their day. And then, yeah, they'll be taking over yoga and mimosas and whatnot throughout the year. So I'm trying to get all of that stuff off the ground before our first retreat in mid-April.
That's incredible. I can't believe that happened so fast.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind. It's been kind of crazy, but it was just kind of one thing after the next. And they were doing construction at our location where we normally have yoga and mimosas. So we kind of needed a temporary substitute location. And in the meantime, everything just kind of came together where WeWork needed a new contract with a fitness company. And I was looking for a space that yoga teachers could come in and out of, kind of this, I don't know, open shared space that they didn't have to shuttle yoga mats back and forth between each other, and just kind of a home base. And so this opportunity came up. I went and met with them right before the holiday, and they said, yeah, if you're willing to teach yoga to WeWork people, you can utilize this space. And then it just all kind of worked out.
That is awesome. And I know that there's some, I don't know, very well-connected people who use the WeWork, especially in Austin, just because the startup central.
Yeah.
All of these remote CEOs working around. So those probably very good people to know.
Yeah, that's kind of, my brother's my sounding board as far as ideas for entrepreneurial success, because he's just killing it right now, which is awesome. but he is always full of ideas, and he has a place at WeWork with his company. And he was just saying how amazing it would be to get in there and even just get ideas and have that energy around other business owners. And it's totally true. Just being there for a little bit, you see all of these minds just turning and everybody working and collaborating and having ideas. And I don't know, it's just really fun. It's a really cool environment. So offering yoga to those folks, and then trying to just bat ideas back and forth and see how the community can grow. Because right now they do yoga, I think, once a week, and that's not enough. In my opinion, in my unbiased opinion.
It's better than nothing, but it works better the more you do it, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like anything, the 10,000 hour rule, for sure.
Yeah. Man, I was actually trying to calculate how many hours I've put into guitar playing. And then I was just like, cool, I'll be a master when I'm like 50. So.
Whatever. You've been playing for so long and giving lessons. For sure, 10,000.
Not quite yet. And teaching isn't the same thing as really doing it for yourself.
Very true.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit more so with yoga, because I feel like you attracted a good crowd of people who are yogis. And if you're demoing along with them, you're actually doing like a pretty intense practice with them.
Yeah, it's been interesting because I don't know. I mean, you've been to yoga and mimosas and mainly just all of my AdZENtures classes, but it's an interesting comparison between teaching in a studio for other companies versus teaching with AdZENtures, because I'm always demoing, mainly because my primary clients abroad are not native English speakers. And so it's a little harder for them to follow along. So I'm demoing everything so they can understand and the class flows a little better. And then in yoga and mimosas, we have a lot of first timers, so also demoing there. But I find that when I'm demoing or actually doing the practice with the students, I get so much out of it from a teaching perspective, because I know what I'm supposed to be doing within my body. So that's easy for me to talk to. And students, it just seems to help everyone overall. But I consider that a huge learning curve rather than taking class from someone else over teaching, maybe equivalent, somewhere along those lines.
I know that's one thing that we're going through. Either marking, I think, is the dance term for it, where kind of raise your hands a little bit is like a talking with your hands gesture, is like raise your arms above your head.
Uh-huh.
Actually going ahead and raising your arms above your head with everybody. But it's, I don't know, you feel definitely much more connected to the practice if you're really just narrating it as you go along with it itself.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
but yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you about guitar lessons. When you're teaching, I don't know, do you kind of feel sometimes that when you're breaking things down, you have to demo to kind of figure out in your body how to vocalize what you're trying to tell them to do? Does that make sense?
A zillion times over and over and over again.
Yeah.
What happens to be faster is really just like, obviously, it's just like, can I adjust your hand for you? And just handing everybody into the position that they should be in.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in yoga, is you can't really feel the difference between, a bent wrist and an unbent wrist, and an elbow that's tucked into your ribs and an elbow that's moving freely and able to move around it. And there's all these little sensations that make moving around a fretboard much faster and uses less effort, and that takes time. And so a lot of the time I just tell people, it's like, this is what you will want to do after you do it enough. Right now it feels awkward, but I promise that you will want to do it.
Yeah. Quote me on that. You can call me a few years down the road and be like, yeah, Nate, you were right.
The thing is, people always want to understand the why.
Totally.
When you're starting out, it's like, I mean, everything's a question. So really just kind of find out the positions that are quote unquote correct, or correct for as correct as their body will allow them in that moment. And,
right.
Yeah. Let them kind of figure it out and contextualize it. And that comes from them just keep it on with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a really big point, is that people want to know why they're doing something. Sure, it's fun, but then also, why am I supposed to, especially for yoga, like, why am I doing this? Why am I putting my body in these weird positions? Why am, what's the benefit from it? What's the outcome? Because I feel like a lot of people are driven towards an idea at the end. We're doing yoga in order to blank, in order to focus, in order to de-stress, in order to get more fit, or whatever the case may be. But how is tucking my chin to my chest and rounding down one vertebra at a time going to differ or benefit me more than folding forward with a straight back and then just, putting my head on my knee or whatever? That's why I took teacher training in the first place, is because I couldn't get the why that I was looking for out of a 60-minute class or a 90-minute class. I wanted to go farther in depth. And I think that you just touched on a huge point. The why is such a big part of any practice or any hobby or anything.
Yeah. And you kind of have to, you learn it for yourself through experience.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least that's one big ingredient to it.
Yeah.
Tell you, but it won't really make sense. It won't hit you as something that you fully understand until you've been doing it for a long time.
For sure. Just the application of any theory or any skill absolute application for sure. From a personal perspective.
Yeah. And it's like, yogis have been writing stuff down about how to meditate and work your way to enlightenment. And we could read all of it, but it's like just reading something that succinctly lays it out will not leave you enlightened at the end of it. It's just saying that this is something that you have to experience for yourself all the way through.
Yeah. For sure.
So you took your teacher training back in Minnesota at Core Power, right?
Yep. Yeah. Good memory.
But yeah, you said that you weren't really a yogi until after college. Like, you were an athlete at St. Joseph.
Yeah. Wow. Gonna start calling you Nate the Elephant. Never forget.
No, I just creeped you on Facebook before this.
Oh. well, that too.
Job.
Yeah. So, from when I was teeny tiny, started playing sports and did all of the aggressive ones that thought I was a boy till I was probably puberty, but baseball, basketball, that good stuff, that the boys all played, and then really got into volleyball in junior high, and then just dove in. And from, probably 5th grade until senior in college, just lived and breathed volleyball, and thought, yoga was for wearing white shrouds and chanting and breathing and whatever. Didn't really get it.
Pretty good description of you on a day-to-day basis now, actually.
Totally. Absolutely. I only wear white. The no shoes thing is actually something I have incorporated, but other than that, no, it was just funny because a friend of mine, after college, I moved to Minneapolis, and a friend of mine was really big into yoga, and I would go weightlifting or running every morning and get my rec volleyball leagues in every Monday and Wednesday or whatever the schedule was. And a friend of mine was saying, try yoga. And I just was so uninterested, but I have had so many injuries due to those impact sports, especially volleyball, whether it was ankle or knee or collarbone or whatever. My body took quite a beating through the years. So one day I decided to give it a go, went to yoga, thought it was the easiest thing that I'd ever done for about the first 5 minutes. And then the yoga teacher walked over, and he was one of these tough love yoga teachers. And he could see on my face that I just was not about it. And he came over and he adjusted. I think I was in Warrior 2 or extended side angle or something. And it's one of these postures that you can look like you're doing it right and be completely off. And he came over and made probably 5 tiny adjustments. And he held my upper hand And so I was like, oh, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And then as soon as he let go, I fell to the ground on my mat, and he just stepped over me and kept teaching. And I was like, what in the hell? And from then on, it hit. I was just like, oh, I have no idea what I'm doing, or what my body awareness, I realized, was not very good. I wasn't very in tune with. When the teacher told me to do this with my body, I couldn't get my hips to do that, or tuck my tailbone this way, or anything, until just repetition. So I kind of got hooked. It was this problem solving, or I want to learn more and figure this out, a riddle or something that 12 years later is still, I'm still trying to figure it out. And I think it's an ongoing thing for sure. But yeah, I just became hooked after that first 5 minutes. I was like, this is something that I'm going to do.
It knocked you over. You're like, oh,
yeah.
Something.
I was a little bit shocked, but okay, fine. It was effective. It was very effective teaching strategy.
For you, for sure.
Yeah.
I know you, and you're a very show me kind of person.
I will do it, damn it.
Yep.
But yeah, so from there, I just started going probably 6 days a week. And like I said earlier, I just couldn't get the why out of it. They said, tuck your chin all the way to your chest and roll forward, or put all of the weight towards the ball of your foot rather than the heel, and don't press down through your toes, and don't lock your knee, but engage your quadricep. All of these little things that were super technical that I love. I love the technical, teeny tiny adjustments that the body makes during a yoga class and in different poses. And I just wasn't getting enough of the details. So that's kind of what I was into yoga for maybe a year and a half, and I decided to take teacher training, and I was only going to take it to learn more. And they asked what our intention was at the very beginning, and by no means was I planning to teach. And then I think it was the third day I raised my hand and asked if I could change my intention for teacher training. It was like, yes, I'm going to teach this stuff. This is amazing.
So you got in there and you just loved the amount of depth that you were getting out of it. And
yeah.
And you kind of thought that more people need to know this?
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many different facets of yoga. The 200 hour did a really good job. The basic certification did a really good job of giving a high level overview. And if you think, it takes 10,000 hours to be advanced or expert or whatever, 200 is barely even a snippet of that. So 2%. Say again.
2%.
Yeah.
Which is amazing that, you can do something that's 2% of the whole journey over a course of 9 months.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's 2%. Once you get into it, there's so many rabbit holes that it's, if I wanted to go really deep into yoga theory, then I was at, 0.2% or something. But it just I thought that it was such a good program because it did a really good job introducing you to several different facets of yoga. And then from there, you could kind of decide where you wanted to focus. They said some teachers are going to really geek out over anatomy. Some are going to absolutely love the Ayurveda aspect or the theory or whatever the case may be. And I totally found that I'm very, very into the physical aspects, tiny little adjustments that you do for your body and how that's going to benefit you. And then it started to tie into my specific limitations from injuries that I had endured through all of my life in athletics and whatnot. And then, started to realize that I had gotten a lot, but wanted to get way more knowledge and a wider view. So I started traveling and just went all over to learn different cultures of yoga, different views, different ways of speaking, different ways of teaching, all sorts of theory, and then also the physical communities of what does this yoga studio physically look like? How do you feel when you walk in it? How do they greet you? And just how people interact with you from a teacher-student perspective, but then also just community perspective. And that's, I think, when my eyes really just opened I mean, it just blew me away how little I knew about yoga once I got out of that really confined community that did such good things for me. But as soon as I left Minnesota and started to look around at other ways of doing the same thing, it was mind blowing. And it was so addicting. So that kind of fueled the fire for ongoing education in as many different and varied places, cultures and studios and styles and everything that I could access.
Yeah,
So
I would. It's sort of like your grad school of yoga was all of the traveling. Did that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you said that you were working some corporate jobs after college for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And was this trip mostly wanderlust, or was it a pretty premeditated thing that you're into yoga and you want to know the whole wide world of yoga, and that was the main impetus for the whole trip itself? Or was that something that you knew you were going to do the trip and that the yoga was also a journey that you were on, so you're going to be involved with it anyway?
It was 100% because of yoga. So you're right. I did the corporate thing right out of university. I worked at the big corporation, power suit, heels, that whole thing, and 9 to 5, but really 7 to 9. I
can imagine the power suit on you, but I can't imagine any sort of shoes.
It was hell. It was absolute hell. I think that's why I'm revolting now and just say no shoes whatsoever. So I did that for, I think, 6 years. I was in the corporate scene and in marketing, and a lot of those skills that I gathered during that time have proven to be beneficial now as an entrepreneur and creating marketing pieces and, just kind of knowing how the consumer mind works and wanting to figure that aspect out. So definitely it was worthwhile. And I'm so happy that I have those experiences. But as I continued down that path, I realized that it wasn't fulfilling to me. And so I think that's where I got into teaching yoga more and more and more. So I was teaching 5 or 6 classes a week while having a full-time job, and got more satisfaction out of this $11 an hour teaching job than, a successful corporate gig. So knew that I wanted to, my whole family's entrepreneurs. Both my parents and my brother started their own businesses. And so I knew that was a path I wanted to go down. So I thought that finding yoga, I had this brilliant idea for kind of a yoga studio co-op thing in Minneapolis, and did a bunch of research for probably 9 months and just didn't feel super comfortable about what my studio was going to be like. I knew I didn't want it to be like the other studios I had been a part of. I wanted it to take the aspects I loved about those studios, incorporate it into mine, but then also add in all of these other things. But I couldn't for the life of me put this thing, I couldn't contextualize it. I couldn't make it a tangible studio in my head. I couldn't visualize what that looked like. And I just felt like I needed a broader vision of what else is out there, because I had such tunnel vision as far as yoga was concerned. It was just Minneapolis, Minnesota. And maybe when I went on a vacation here and there, I took yoga at a resort or a hotel or somewhere else. And I didn't feel like I was educated enough to make that big commitment or that decision. So my efforts, that I'd been saving money the whole time to start the studio, and rather than spending that money towards a capital investment loan, I spent it on traveling. So I kind of shifted gears and used yoga and the yoga community as a way to determine where I would be traveling, because part of it was wanderlust and I did want to see the world, but another part of me really wanted to utilize that time as research and development. So it's amazing and just reinforced how amazing yoga is. But I created this template, contacted a bunch of yoga studios all over the world, and just changed, the title on the template basically, and said, my name is Lindsey. I'm doing an around the world trip to study and teach yoga and to learn more. I would love to meet your marketing manager, your studio owner, and or any instructors who work at your studio, just for informational purposes. And the response was incredible. I'd say probably out of every email that I sent, 80% responded, which is crazy because all of these people were complete strangers. And they just said, oh my gosh, it's amazing that you're doing this. Come to our yoga studio. Any and everyone would be happy to meet with you. You can have free yoga. If you need a place to teach, to make some money while you're traveling, you can teach for us. Do you need a place to stay? We have friends who own this hostel, or you could work for this place in exchange for room and board. And it was insane. So went around the world for a year and just following up with all these contacts who opened their doors and helped me see what yoga was like in their community. But then also they were locals wherever I visited. So they were telling me where to eat, where to get the best coffee, where I should spend my time, what isn't really that amazing, even though TripAdvisor might say that it is. And so I got this amazing local perspective in all of these places that I was at for 2 or 3 days. And it just really started to sink in how amazing every single place that I visited was from a local perspective. If you have that person who knows this around the corner, tucked away barbecue joint is the best place, they don't have the marketing capacity or even the need to promote or market. So you'd never hear about them any other way, but all the local
most loyal customers anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And so that started to set in everywhere I was going. I would get these awesome little snippets of information of where to spend my time and what's going to leave the biggest impact and their true treasures, I guess, of each place. And I just thought how lucky I was that I'm getting free information. They're opening their doors to me, telling me pay rates and compensation strategy and how they market and what their community is like, because why not? I'm not competition. I'm, in the same industry, spreading the whole yoga love thing. And so everybody just was more than willing to share their space, their information. And it was incredible. It was what got me to where I am today and why AdZENtures is what it is and why we lead retreats the way we do and teach classes the way we do and all sorts of stuff. So that trip was the whole purpose, because when I got done with the trip after 1 year, the whole purpose at the start of the trip was to go back to Minneapolis, open up this yoga studio, and just have a solidified idea of what that studio was going to be because of what I found along the way. And then what I found was that I didn't want to be tied down to one place and have the overhead and the time commitment and financial commitment and all these things. I wanted to keep traveling, and I wanted to show other people how amazing all of these places I had been were from a local perspective.
Yeah. I just want to plug it for you, in case you're not into shameless self-promotion, but these retreats are the fucking best. There's no other way to put it. Like she has dozens of friends everywhere I've been with her, and they all know just the greatest things in that area. And you won't get that with almost anybody else. I just thought it was because Lindsey just happens to have like knowledge of all the coolest shit, but she just has attracted the best people. So if you are considering a yoga retreat, definitely look into AdZENtures before anything else.
Yeah, no, and that was, so I found Slovenia along the way, and that place stuck out more than anything. So that's why I live there and I started leading retreats there. But just the way that we're growing, every place is from a contact that I have personally met and love so much. And that person is the local. So it's one relationship removed from me. And so it's these people that I trust, and they know what AdZENtures stands for and what it's about. And for example, the new one that we're leading this year in Portugal, my friend, Alfie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Alfie and his sister are professional chefs. His sister has lived in Portugal for, I think, 5 or 6 years. And I reached out saying, this is a location that I have had on my to visit list for years. And him and his sister are helping me facilitate this amazing yoga retreat at an sustainable eco resort in the south part of Portugal. And it's just going to be incredible. But they know these artists and these musicians and so who runs this market every other week. And they're going to make sure that that's when we're there, and things like this that are just, you could plan all of this stuff, but accidentally plan it on the wrong week. So you're going to miss all of these things, but a local knows that kind of stuff. So it's just, I don't know, it's been incredible. We have next year in 2020 already planned in France, and the following year in Bali, and the following year in Brazil, and all of these people who are seeing the benefit of showing people their towns or their villages or whatever you want to call it. But I had another friend reach out and she said, I'm from Brazil. I'm a yoga teacher. I would love to partner with you to lead a retreat and give people the local perspective in this very thoughtful and mindful way of yoga and nature and activities and everything else that you just really don't get unless you know a local. So I'm pretty pumped.
Yeah, it's amazing that I feel like all of the great things that have happened for you in yoga are just because everybody wants to just share what they love that they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and if you, think about it from like a musical perspective, how proud you are of your accomplishments, but then you want other people to feel that same way. So it's not that you're trying to bestow your whatever onto them. You're trying to help them access their talents or their passion. And you're just giving them the tools, or you're trying to provide them the techniques for them to do that for themselves.
Yeah, it's more comes out of sharing and teaching than out of just trying to get. And
yeah,
I'm starting to see that kind of philosophy has been on your side this whole time.
Yeah, if you're out to just share experiences with people, and I don't know, I feel like it's such a basic statement, but people respond to that and they're like, oh, she's not after something. She just really wants to share these things with other people. And that's how it is in Slovenia. Everybody's so proud of that place. And, so many friends there have so many special skills. I'm not trying to get anything. I want people to come and experience the best home cooked mushrooms and freeka that you will ever have in your entire life, and some people are like, what the hell is freeka? I'm like, you don't even know until you try
how good this thing is.
Right. Until you try. We had vegans eating cheese and meat and all of these things because it was organic, cooked right in front of them. They knew it was from the farm next door, and the chef was just insane. And it was in our backyard, just things like that you don't get that everywhere. And I just think they're so special. And these people are willing to do that because they're so proud of their craft. And when I reached out to Anya and her dad, they were like, oh my gosh, of course we'll come and cook for you. You think that they would like this? I'm like, yes, 1000% yes. And they're just
liked it
happy.
Very much.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. So I felt like Slovenia was just a treasure behind every door.
Yeah.
It really felt like.
Well, and I'm definitely biased for Slovenia, but I feel that could be the case anywhere. As long as you know where to look and who to ask and where to go, every place has its own magic and mystery and, things to be discovered. And the locals know about those places, but you can be the best traveler, the most diligent, but if you're not talking to a local, it'll take you months to discover those things. And not everybody has a year to spend in northern Thailand to discover the best places. They maybe have a week or two, and asking a local is going to be the best way to go. But some people aren't comfortable doing that. So that's what we're trying to provide people is we've done the footwork, we've done the groundwork, we've talked to the locals. This is where you want to be, or this is what you want to do.
Yeah, it works. I remember in Slovenia this summer, me and the people who were on the retreat with you, we were all just talking about it. It's just like, yeah, we just wake up every day and Lindsey and her friends tell us how to enjoy our time here. So it's a great system, and everything that's special that everybody wants to share about what's great about where they are.
Right.
It is so much more accessible on a retreat like that.
Yeah. And I don't know, no one's trying to sell anything, or, those people aren't saying, okay, but your friends have to pay 10 times as much because we're the only ones who are going to offer this service or this thing. And there absolutely is that element of business, but for the most part, the really great things people just want to share, and of course make a living a little bit, but I mean, that's not their main motivation.
Yeah. So what is your end game for AdZENtures if, 2 more international retreats in 2020?
Yeah.
I saw Nashville, Music City.
Yeah.
Up in April on your website, which I'm psyched about because that's less than 6 hours for me.
Amazing. Oh my God.
And that week in yoga teacher training is business for yoga. And I feel like I would much rather talk to you go to class that week.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be amazing. And that's another one. My best friend, Katie, lives in Nashville, and we've been talking about it for a few years now. And I went out in December for a scouting trip, and it's going to be so great. So for AdZENtures, my whole thing is yoga. And so it's not just yoga. It's not for yogis. It's for people who want to incorporate yoga into other aspects of their life, and then be super present and, chill enough to experience those activities as much as they possibly can and to the fullest. And so Music City one is going to be awesome. We're incorporating or theming that one with sound. So there'll be so many things that are just sound centric, and it's going to be awesome. I obviously love the element of surprise on the retreats, but there's going to be so many good music things. I'm so excited. But yeah, so the goal is basically incorporating one new domestic retreat and one international retreat every year. I know we talked about this on the retreat this summer, but we have a lot of returning yogis or AdZENtures. So everybody's saying, where are we going next year? Where are we going the next year? Where are we going the next year? And I always want to give people the opportunity to travel with us and experience this kind of travel. So that's the goal this year. We have Nashville as the new domestic location and Portugal is the new international. And then next year, we're hoping to either go to Moab or Montana for the domestic one, and then internationally to France, and then continue to incorporate all of these other locations while keeping the existing ones. So growing, that's the that's the trend, or the goal is each year adding on something new, adding on more local, just wow experiences, and bringing on other teachers and bringing in new yogis, and just continuing to travel the world through yoga and nature and adventure and all sorts of fun stuff. So down the road, ideally having year-round retreats all over the world that are cultural immersion, super, super experiential travel that people are going to remember and really, really cherish. So that's cool.
Yeah, the whole yoga and thing, yoga really, it does combine with just about everything, because the end of yoga, by the means of yoga, is to be more present, be more awake. And on the retreat, you taste the food more. You're more present in the conversations with all these great people that you're meeting. You can really appreciate any sort of natural beauty that you're seeing. Yeah. It doesn't have to be yoga, meditation, yoga in our yoga bubble life thing. And I love that. That's what you do on your retreats, is you kind of make it more about, let's just appreciate good things around here. And do yoga to help us be more with it. Other than kind of limit it to just being about yoga or meditation.
Right. Because I feel like the people who are into yoga and meditation are into yoga and meditation. But then everybody who isn't, they don't feel that it's very accessible unless they're already those people. I can't tell you how many people tell me, well, I have to get flexible before I come to a yoga class. And I just cringe because I'm like, no, you're missing it. You really don't. The whole reason I started taking yoga, besides my friend pressuring me to, was because she said it was really good for my joints and I had all of those injuries. So my thought process was, well, if I do enough yoga, or if yoga is actually beneficial for me, then I'll play volleyball better, or I will be able to play volleyball longer, or my body won't hurt as bad when I'm running, something like this. And definitely using yoga to benefit other aspects of my life. And I kind of came around to the fact that yoga can be a lifestyle, but it also can be incorporated into your lifestyle, whatever that might be. And I mean, if you think about it, it's just breathing and it's moving your body in a specific and intentional way. And you have to be very aware of what you're doing in order to do that. And so it's just body awareness and breath. And it's broken down. It can be that simple. It's like everybody does that almost on a daily basis, but it's become so automatic that we're not super in tune with what we're actually doing. And so that's just what I love to incorporate other things, because I love rock climbing. I love kayaking. I love, all of these things, but breathing and doing things with intention helps me be much more present and focused on what I'm doing, which allows me to get way more out of it.
Yeah, you're actually able to receive so much more from the experience.
Yeah, so that's the whole intention. Yoga and,
well, you and yoga. So everything is really getting faster and faster and bigger with AdZENtures. Do you still make time every day for practice for yourself, or is this something that you're trying to incorporate as best you can?
I think the practice looks different every day. I can't say that I'm very diligent about having that routine of, some people I admire so much that they have the self-discipline or the habit that they wake up, they light Palo Santo, they have their tea, they do their meditation, or they do a 10-minute vinyasa flow, or those people who go 6 p.m. every day yoga at this studio, or whatever the case may be. I don't have a set practice that I do every day. I would say that every day I practice some element of yoga or of what I view to be my yoga. And so I'll sit and breathe for a little bit. I'm still working on my meditation. I'm pretty shit.
I was going to ask about that, and I'm trying to get into it too. And I am also pretty shit, but you came at this so externally. This was a very physical thing for you that I wanted to ask if you were trying to take this more internal through meditation.
Yeah. And it's not going well. Just with the entrepreneurial mindset, I feel like there's a million things I'm not doing that I need to be on top of the 2 million things I am doing. And it's so easy to say out loud, but of course I would benefit from meditating and be able to apply that to the rest of my day and be more efficient and get more done. And I am aware of that. I know that that's the case, but getting myself to do that has proven to be very difficult. So I don't know. It's still absolutely something that I'm working on because I know how valuable it would be. But as we speak now, I would say that between journaling, physical movement in yoga, and just breath work, I bounce around between the three of them and then kind of leave meditation over in this deep, dark corner that I'm building up to. And it's that same, I'm that person who's saying I need to be flexible before I can come to a yoga class. And now I'm saying, I need to be in the right mindset in order to start meditating. And I just laugh about that because
and it's so backwards. Yeah,
I know. And I get it. Like, I'm saying it out loud. I understand that that's the wrong mindset, or, not wrong, but I'm missing it. But to just be completely transparent, no, I am not great at meditating, and definitely something I need to work on.
Yeah, well, I think everybody who's tried to meditate feels that way.
Yeah.
Like, just pay attention to the breath, and then you think about something related to the breath, and then by association, something that's not about the breath at all. And 2 minutes later, you're like, oh yeah, I was supposed to think about breathing, right?
Totally. But I will say, I mean, I have experienced it a few times, and it's absolute magic. But I went to a yoga class probably 3 weeks ago from this instructor that I absolutely love, but I haven't been able to take her class since before I left for Slovenia. And so it's been 7 months, and I took her class, and it was a 75-minute vinyasa. It wasn't super physical. It was, again, just very mindful, but she's yoga mom. Like, everyone in Austin calls her just yoga mom. She's insane. And I came out of her class almost in tears because I was so empty in my mind. Like, I was clear. There was nothing. During Shavasana, I didn't fall asleep. My mind wasn't wandering. I was just completely in this state of utter relaxation and just present and not thinking about anything, not even my breath. I was just there. And I would say that that's 1 out of 3 times I've ever experienced that. And she let us out of Shavasana, and I sat up, and I was just like, holy crap, is that what everybody is talking about? Like, if I can get to that point at any given time, I'm the happiest person in the world. It was insane. It was amazing. I went up and just bear hugged her. I was like, Giacondo, oh my God, this is amazing. And it was amazing.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. If I can get a few seconds out of that.
Yeah.
On best examples of trying to get to a fully present point, then I consider that a huge victory.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that takes a very special kind of teacher.
Oh my gosh, she's incredible.
Yeah. So you've mostly been practicing vinyasa type stuff. Do you still play around with anything else, or is this just sort of your yoga home base?
Yeah, it's my home.
Sorry, go ahead.
But it's not, I don't know. I used to do Bikram a lot and became super addicted to that and craved the heat and the discipline of the 26 postures, the breath work, everything, and just the body control. And that really helped me focus my mind. But I think it was pretty hard on my body doing it over and over and over again. I mean, I was doing that 6 days a week, 90-minute classes. So it was very intense. And from there, I kind of switched to vinyasa and then took time off from Bikram. So now I'm trying to be much more across the board with incorporating yin. And I take yoga basics a lot. So it's back to breaking down postures, and it's a little bit more intense now that I'm doing it so thoughtfully. I think yoga basics is a good place to start for a beginner, but I also think it's a great place to go for a very experienced yogi, because it reminds you of teeny tiny little things that you have thought you've moved past, or, you thought for me in Warrior One, I thought that I've, mastered the things that you're supposed to do in your body for Warrior One, because I've been practicing yoga for 11 years. And I go to a yoga basics class and I'm like, oh yeah, oops, forgot about that completely, because it was overshadowed by all of these other things. So I think now I'm very conscious about trying to just completely mix up my yoga routine and incorporate inversions a lot more, incorporate physical power yoga, and getting a few aspects of cardio involved, and really challenging my body and building up muscle strength and all sorts of stuff. So I've really enjoyed the breadth of yoga that I've incorporated recently. Still try to avoid high intensity yoga because I don't believe it's actual yoga. I just think it's an excuse. Say again?
High intensity yoga?
Yeah, like yoga with weights where it's a HIIT class.
Like a hot on it or something like that.
And high intensity training, and it's not yoga. You're just doing yoga poses in a high intensity class, and it is what it is. But I think it's a yoga studio's excuse to get those people who love aerobics and high intensity into their studios. But anyway, that's fine.
Yeah.
Whatever gets people involved in yoga is great, but it's not for me.
I had pretty much this conversation with my martial arts teacher in my last interview, and we were talking about CrossFit, and we were like, don't really love CrossFit, don't kind of like what it's forcing people to do with being competitive and doing way too many of some movement, but I mean, it gets people to do it, so
totally, and that's great. If that's what it takes, then fine.
Have you been bringing anything from outside of yoga into your, maybe not your practice, or maybe your practice, but also the classes that you're teaching?
We're not really. No, I think one thing that's an interesting point. I could do that more as far as actually merging the yoga practice with other things, more of a fusion of sorts. But for me, up to this point, I keep things separate. So I keep yoga as my view of yoga, and then, kayaking separate. And people were like, oh, can we do yoga on the kayak? And completely merging them together. And I'm like, you can, but that's not what we're going to do.
Yeah, that's probably a little bit too much of my chocolate and your peanut butter.
Yeah.
But if everybody can use yoga, then bringing elements of something else, because we've been trying the Kung Fu yoga for the last couple months here in Columbus. And that has worked pretty well, just because you have to be very aware of your body mechanics. And yoga is a great way to get people into the mindset of actually feeling their body and thinking about the ways that it moves in. And a lot of the time people just kind of go for something and they can't feel aware and make the adjustments that they need to.
Yeah.
Out of practice like that.
And I think that's my concern, or especially my issue with the high intensity classes that they're calling yoga, is that, you'll have someone who loves the cardio workout and they love weightlifting and they love the upbeat music and everything else and the energy, and great. But then you tell them to do horse pose and bicep curls, and somebody doesn't know that your knees need to be stacked over your ankles, and then they, have their knees bow in, and it's so much pressure on the knee joint, and people end up getting hurt. And it's like, I don't know how I got hurt in yoga.
Tear your ACL, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, I think for me, unless people are experienced with both of the things, at least from a physical sense, then I don't want to incorporate too much, because I want people to be safe, I guess, and get the most out of yoga and get the most out of whatever that is. But I think other elements could absolutely be added into yoga. One woman asked me about singing in yoga, and I mean, I'm tone deaf, so no for me, but that could be something down the road if one AdZENture instructor is, I don't know, singer or whatever. Who knows? But we have not gotten there yet.
I'm going to start thinking about that for some of my classes now.
Do it.
If you don't mind me experimenting with it, because I could see how that could work.
Yeah, for sure. During a flow, that would be really great for people who are into that or are capable of carrying a tune.
I guess it's just another way to feel and exhale.
Yeah, for sure.
That could be very cool. Do you do many ohms chanting? Has any of that kind of etched its way into your flows? Or that's something that it's sort of on the far side of the other end that you're on with the spectrum of movement yoga versus internal yoga?
Yeah, and I am not opposed to it at all. When I attend a class, I'll ohm, I'll chant. I will do all of those things as a student if instructed to do so by the teacher. But as far as my classes are concerned, I'd kind of feel like a poser. And I don't feel that is an authentic part of my practice. So I don't want to teach that, because I feel in classes, I can tell if the teacher is being authentic, or I can tell if it's some skit or some script that they're trying to follow in order to elicit certain responses in their students. And I don't mean that in a catty way. I get more out of a class where I feel the teacher is being authentic and teaching from a really good place, rather than what they think a student might need, or, what might, I don't know, get better reviews or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
whatever. But I feel like
vulnerability to be a student, and people are usually only comfortable being vulnerable if they can sense that you're being real with them.
Exactly. That's the thing, is I'm trusting this teacher to guide me through this practice, that I'm there for a reason. Maybe it's an emotional day, maybe it's something I'm trying to overcome, but either way, I'm kind of tuning out and doing whatever this person tells me to do in a yoga class. And that's just it. A teacher literally is giving direction, and students are following that direction, making modifications, of course, based on what they need. But at the end of the day, you're following along what this person tells you to do. And if that's not coming from a genuine place, I don't feel very safe, I guess, in trusting them to guide me through this practice. So I don't want others to feel that way. Whereas if I sat down and tried to I feel like people would feel it immediately, that I didn't feel comfortable doing that. And I think they would pick up on that and maybe inherit some of that uncomfortability as well. And I just don't want that. So until I get more comfortable doing that on my own, I won't be leading that in a class.
Yeah. Okay. Well, how many of the Yoga and Mimosas classes are you still teaching? Because you're up to 12 people, which is insane to me.
Yeah. So they're all our goal for 2019 is to have 7 classes a week. Right now we're just on Saturday, Sundays. So this month I taught a few classes, but ideally, because I'm gone 6 months out of the year, I do want to build a community here in Austin, which would mean that the other yoga teachers would teach primarily, and I would basically be filling in a few times a month. But I really want to give they're amazing instructors, and they're really excited about the community of AdZENtures, and I don't want them to feel that 6 months out of the year they don't have a place in this community, and then only when I'm gone they have a place in this community. So I'm just trying to have them feel a little bit more empowered to take ownership and to really be the backbone of AdZENtures. And so they will primarily be the teachers for Yoga and Mimosas. And then Yoga and is really fun because every yoga teacher who works for AdZENtures is completely unique, just like every human. That's an obvious statement, but one of them is really into tea. So she wants to do yoga and tea tasting and talk about all sorts of teas. And another one is yoga and theory. So she wants to talk about where yoga came from and why we're doing this, and, getting into some of the Ayurveda practices. And it's just really fun that all of these different instructors want to do something different. And I sent out a little survey at the end of the year, just kind of saying, what are your thoughts? How do you want to move forward within this organization? All of them want more classes. All of them want more variety rather than just yoga and mimosas. And so we're having a really fun kickoff meeting next week to kind of go over what yoga and is going to look like for us this year. And to answer your question, I won't be such a big part in the weekly events, unfortunately, because I love that part. But my focus is going to shift a little bit towards development and ongoing events with community partners, such as, the nature conservancies and things like that, so we can incorporate more yoga and throughout the community rather than just in this really isolated location that's just yoga and mimosas. Because some people don't drink, some people don't like mimosas, some people, the whole yoga and alcohol thing in Austin is a success, but it's also, there's way more than yoga and beer, yoga and wine, yoga and mimosas. So we're tapping into all of that other good stuff too.
Yeah. Austin is a place that is, I would say, very receptive to yoga and alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it sounds like you're telling me about the story of how all of this is coming together, and it sounds like it's picking up. Do you think the actual studio that you were trying to envision back in Minnesota is going to happen in the next couple of years?
Oh, that would be amazing. So one really fun development is that I've officially started a company in Slovenia. So now we have AdZENtures Yoga LLC in Austin, Texas. And then we have AdZENtures Yoga with a J, Bovec in Slovenia. So that means that we're now able to legally buy property and promote and all sorts of stuff. So 2020, there is going to be a physical brick and mortar yoga studio in Bovec.
Whoa.
I know. I'm just putting that out there. You put out there the podcast and now here you are. I'm throwing it out there that there's going to be a physical studio in 18 months. So.
Hell yeah. I'm so excited for you.
Thanks. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of work and tons of hurdles and whatnot. But that yoga studio that I envisioned for Minneapolis, it's funny because obviously put it out there and have manifested this thing, but it just looks so different than what I thought it did or thought it would back in 2014. So it's just funny. I don't know. I get a kick out of that. I was telling myself, I'm going to go on this trip, going to start a business and open a yoga studio. And in my small mind at the time, it was going to be a physical walk in, check in at the front desk, nice feeling yoga studio in the suburbs of St. Paul, Minnesota. And it's now evolved to be this really interesting twist that's in Bovec, Slovenia.
That's so cool. Actually, my first interview was with my old guitar teacher, my mentor, and he's very into jazz and improvisation like me. And he was making the metaphor that you just kind of have to trust life and where it's going. Yeah. Just kind of be a part of it. And then you'll probably end up thinking it's beautiful. And I love that. I'm really seeing that with you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's crazy. And I always tell my friends, I'm like, I'll preface this by saying, yeah. It's very yogi sounding, or it's very, whatever, because I can just picture them rolling their eyes after I tell them. But it's just funny because back in the day, I was very driven from a financial success aspect. So that's the whole power suit, wanted to be a CEO one day and do all these great things. But in my mind, it looked very different. And I wanted to be financially successful enough to have my favorite number 7. So I wanted to have 7 houses all over the world that I could visit whenever I wanted and all of these things. And I was talking about that this year with a friend, and I just kind of stopped in my tracks and I was like, oh my gosh, because it was my birthday and I got all these messages from wonderful humans all over the world. And the one common message from all of these people was, when are you coming home? And that was from a friend of mine in London, a friend of mine in New Zealand, a friend of mine, and I started to kind of take a step back and I was like, oh my goodness, I have a place that feels like home in Nashville. I have a place that feels like home in Montana. I have a place that feels like home in Minnesota, in, Slovenia, in everywhere else. And I started to go down the list, and I have way more than 7 air quote homes that I can visit anytime I want. I am the CEO of a company, and it's just, I don't know, I just got full body chills. I was blown away by this thing that I put out in the universe years ago, but I didn't specifically say I wanted to be CEO of a Fortune 500 company, and I want to own 7 brick and mortars and have mortgages to my name or whatever. And all of those things came true. And I'm just like, okay, awesome. That's amazing.
That is awesome.
I definitely am on the same page as your mentor. Like, just got to be along for the ride. And I don't know, I could have never imagined this in my wildest dreams. I didn't have the imagination for it. So I'm pretty pumped that the universe went ahead and got me to where I am, with the hard work, of course, but that's just funny.
Yeah, thanks, universe. All right, Lindsey, we've been going for over an hour.
Nice.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. This is great.
Yeah.
I can't believe you were nervous about this beforehand.
Yeah. I don't know. Never been on a podcast before. This is very fun.
Yeah, we should do more of these. But anyway, if people wanted to keep up with the tremendous amount of cool things that you and AdZENtures are doing, where should they go to check that out?
Website is probably the best call. So it's AdZENtures, like an adventure, but with a little Zen in the middle. AdZENturesyoga.com. And we have all of our information on the website as far as retreats and events and classes and where we can be found and whatnot. And then, Slovenia or Austin at the moment, as far as physical locations are concerned.
Yes. Awesome.
So
Thanks, Nate.
Yeah. No, thanks so much. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Take care of yourselves.
Yay.
Bye.
Hey, I'm still here. Thanks for listening. And if you love the show, please go onto iTunes and leave a review. It helps much more than just leaving a rating. It's a way that you can directly help the show, and that's going to help us keep getting good guests and putting out good content for all of y'all. So if you love us as much as we love you, please go ahead and just say one nice thing about us. It's an absolute pleasure for me to be able to sit down with these people and talk about excellence and pursuing excellence. And I love that I can provide it for anybody who's interested. So if you'd like to hear more, this is a very simple way that you can help support the show. Anyway, thanks again. Appreciate you. Take care of yourselves. Bye.